and 2. They stack the line of scrimmage. There's Dom Hill. There he goes. Dom Hill 40. Dom Hill 30. Downhill Dom Hill. Touchdown. 61 yards.
Smoaky.com presents the Texas High School Football Show on 365 Sports. Brought to you by Peter Chevrolet.
Medlock, they fake it to him. James Keeper off the left side, breaks the tackle, into the secondary, skips away, and he will score. Touchdown, Duncanville.
Here's David Smoke.
We are back. How you doing? It's the 2024 high school football season in Texas kicks off on Thursday night through the weekend, and it's time. I even felt like when I got up on Monday, I was like, for about 3 or 4 weeks leading up to this week, I was like, I can wait a little bit longer because it was nice to play golf 3 times a week and do the afternoon podcast we do on 365 Sports and YouTube. But I started pushing towards this week, just like the coaches are. A different way, but just like coaches are throughout the state of Texas as they get ready for the opening games. And there will be things you have to tweak. And then there's that improvement from week 1 to week 2, no matter how good a team might be or no matter how a team may struggle in the opening week. But thanks to Garrett Ross, he's here in studio with me. Every Thursday we'll have this Texas high school football podcast. And, of course, we appreciate our amazing sponsors. Jack McKenzie will be doing some of the work, too, to get this thing put together for Thursdays here on 365 Sports. Please like and subscribe if you don't mind and pass the word along. So we always have some sort of historical perspective we do in the opening segment. The great Todd Dodge, back in coaching again at Lucas Lovejoy. He'll join us at 10:15 or so. And then a guy that was a coach at Port Arthur Jefferson, hell of a player in college at Tulane, and did a remarkable job at Jefferson and then at Lee High School, now Legacy in Tyler. Mike Owens, a great friend of mine. I get goosebumps bringing him up because I got to know him when he arrived at a program that everybody else around him was winning, and no one ever thought Lee would win at that level that he eventually did. Mike will join us as he is also going through a battle in his life. We'll get to that with him during the show. And then we look at the best games, thanks to our good friend Jerry Forrest in Pigskin Prep. But let's look at the longest district winning streaks. We're going to look at the most state championships and more. But Aledo, think about this. They've won 119 consecutive games in district play. 119. Newton, the Eagles, their record, 73. And they're a team that bounces most in 2A, 3A. My goodness, what they've done over the years. Then there is Mason, the Punchers, Gunner, North Shore, the team that, of course, in 5A has been so good of late, the classic games with Duncanville, and now North Shore has won 44 as Mart. The Panthers, Kevin Hoffman, the head coach, is a guy like Todd Dodge, our guest here today, who retired, remember? They had a state championship game. I guess it was Windthorst, and they stopped Windthorst on an extra point, but there was a penalty. Windthorst went for 2. I think that was in 2020. Windthorst scored in a 2-point conversion. I remember Kevin Hoffman telling me, I'm gone. I'm out. That's it. He thought that team was also going to win a state championship because every year Mart is probably expected to win a state championship. 44 straight. Refugio, always really good. Then you have Carthage and Scott Surratt. Last year, we're beaten in the, the semifinals by Gilmer. Gilmer finally got them. And Alan Metzel, the head coach of the Buckeyes, but what an unbelievable run it has always been with Carthage. Poth, Glen Rose, and then also you see Arlington Martin, among others. South Oak Cliff with what they've done with Coach Todd. Arlington Martin, I mentioned them. And then there's Westlake, another part of the lineage and legacy of Todd Dodge, among many others. So there you see the longest current win streaks in the district and a couple of other teams too. Now, the whole goal is to win a state championship. The whole goal is to be good. The whole goal is to get better week by week, and all the offseason, blood, sweat, and tears. Aledo with a sick number of state titles, with Tim Buchanan winning a lot of those, 12. Think about that, 12. Carthage, Scott Surratt, last year it looked like they were going to win their 10th, and then Gilmer won that game and was really good. Katy, Richland Springs. Now, to the right, you see in parentheses the last time these programs won a state title. Some of them, it's been a drought. Aledo last year, Carthage 2 years ago, Katy was 2020, Richland Springs in six-man 2019, and then South Lake Carroll. Some of those, again, a part of that Todd Dodge legacy. But it's been a while. I remember the game that they played at McLean Stadium that first year. They played an unbelievable playoff game against Midway, and it was down to the wire, Midway winning that game, and they had, of course, the team that went on to play for a state championship before they lost to Cypress Fairbanks. There's Mart. 19 was the year I talked about. In 20, I think Kevin Hoffman felt like they'd win it again and he'd retire. He is still coaching. It's in your blood, or their blood. Salina, 2007. Plano, for all those Tom Kimbrough years. And 1994, their last state title, Plano in 1994. Then Abilene and Brownwood, the Gordon Wood years, and much more. So those are the most state championships by a program as we start 2024. One quick unique note. There are a couple of Texas high school football teams that are in Montana. They're in Montana. Is that right? Montana. Strawn and also Milford. Now, Billings, Montana. I talked to Jose Cervantes, the head coach at Milford. They set this up. Texas versus Montana, Highwood against Milford, and then Custer, Hysham, Melstone will play Strawn. This is a doubleheader on Friday in Billings, Montana. Jose Cervantes told me that they got on a bus yesterday morning. It was Wednesday morning or Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock, arrived in Montana very late on Tuesday night. How about that? That's pretty cool. It's cool to see there was a team out of, I believe it was in Washington, or it might have been Vancouver in Canada, that came down to play in a game against Groesbeck a few years back. We did the broadcast at Groesbeck. I love these like a cross-country type of games that you see. You see a lot of them with the big schools as everything's gone so national of late, but I think that's cool with two schools, six-man schools that are up in Montana to play an afternoon doubleheader on Friday. Again, coming up next, so many state titles. He walked away on top of the world when it comes to football as a head coach. He's won everywhere he's been, in a couple of places that were not as easy. Todd Dodge, who I've become, I think he wouldn't mind me saying this, a very good friend of his. We talked during the offseason as he was thinking about getting back into coaching, and he is. Chris Ross goes to Stephen F. Austin. That job opens up at Lovejoy. And Todd Dodge starts another part of his unbelievable career, and he's next on 365 Sports in the Texas Statewide High School Football Podcast.
When you need power, performance, and head-turning style, you need Peters Chevrolet. Check out the 2024 Chevrolet Silverado. 1.9% for 36 months with discounts up to $10,000 off on custom crew cabs. 2024 Silverado prices starting at $36,995. Whether you work hard or play hard, take your pick out of the largest selection of new Chevrolets at Peters Chevrolet. Online at peterscars.net. Peters Chevrolet. Together, let's drive.
New arrivals just dropped at Barefoot Campus Outfitter in Waco. Looking for the best Baylor gear? Barefoot is the place to grab your gear. Game day polos, tees, tanks, caps, clear stadium bags, jewelry, and more. Barefoot Outfitters has all the essentials with unique campus apparel and offering comfortable garments and designs. Long-lasting images that people continue to enjoy wearing time and time again. Located right off I-35 on Spate, or shop at barefootcampusoutfitter.com and get free shipping on orders $75 or more. Go Bears!
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgin Ford. It's that time of year, it's football season. Bird Colgin Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 selling truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, 47 years in a row. Come see the largest showroom in Texas and experience better at Bird Colgin Ford.
Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, specializing in diagnosing and treatment of any and all sport-related injuries. Celebrating over 2 decades of service to Central Texas, they tackle all surgical and non-surgical problems that arise from an active lifestyle. Trust the doctors that Baylor trusts. And when injuries sideline you, don't wait for Monday. Join us at 8:30 on Saturday morning for a post-game injury evaluation clinic. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine Orthopedics. We get you back in the game.
Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house. When you order from Texas Beef House and unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. Texas Beef House now hosting twice monthly live auctions where you, the customer, set the cost of what you want to pay for ribeyes and New York strip fillets, flat iron, brisket, tri-tip. So look online, TexasBeefHouse.com, and popping up will be the live auction dates coming up. Stay connected. It's TexasBeefHouse.com. From their pasture to your plate, twice monthly live auctions, TexasBeefHouse.com. He's back. Todd Dodge, head coach at Lovejoy. I consider Todd a great friend. We've talked sometimes about things during the offseason and gotten to know each other over the years, and obviously everyone knows the record that he's had everywhere he has been, and now trying to do it again, a new chapter in his great career at Lovejoy. Thanks for your time, my friend. I know you just got off the practice field. Why did you get back in the game?
Well, I was out for 2. Was going to see Riley's teams play at South Lake probably every other week over the last 2 years. About mid-season last year, I guess that was fall of 23, I just kind of started, the old self-talk goes, man, I think I got a little bit of juice left in the tank, so to speak. And Elizabeth and I knew that we would eventually be moving to the Dallas-Fort Worth area to be closer to family, grandkids mostly. And so we just started talking about it and praying about it. And, if it was God's will that maybe the right spot would open up within a 50-mile radius of the DFW area. And so here we are at Lovejoy. Lovejoy is a 5A Division II program that sits just east of Allen and a little bit southeast of McKinney. We bought a home in McKinney, got into it early part of the summer, and that'll be our forever home now.
I know you were looking around. There's no question about that. And you mentioned if something would all of a sudden open up. Chris Ross goes to Stephen F. Austin. He had built that program where it is today. When you heard that job came open, was there any doubt that would, if it all worked out, would be the perfect opportunity for you?
Well, we were, Elizabeth and I had been talking about it. And to be honest with you, this Collin County corridor right through here had a lot of the jobs that I would have been interested in. And about mid-January, I'd had some buddies of mine kind of looking out for what was happening in the DFW area, and I got a call that the Lovejoy had come open. The next thing you know, myself and Superintendent Katie Cordell are having some talks, and she invites me to come for an interview, and it was about a 3-week process, and I started on February 1st. So it really, really excited. It's very similar in a way to Westlake and South Lake. It's a one high school, very, as they will say, vertically aligned. There's one high school, one middle school, one intermediate school, and 2 elementary schools. So it's kind of a small little place that competes against really good people. It's
amazing to me. Back in the day, I remember when Plano Senior High School was the only school in Plano back in the, I guess it would have been late 70s, early 80s. And it was like everything else was flat wheat field, whatever, right? And now it's insane what's gone on in that area, along with what's gone up to Prosper, up into the Argyle, Salina area. It's Frisco, of course, it exploded too. And I know that's a little bit further to the west. When you were out the first year, after you retired, what did you miss the most about coaching?
Probably Monday through Wednesday.
the preparation.
Yeah, the preparation. is probably what I miss the most, is having that team, the whole 60 of them, that coaching staff, and then ultimately my quarterback room. So I can't lie, David. I missed that part of it. I did not have any grandiose ideas when I retired from Westlake about getting back into it after 2 years. That was not necessarily the plan. A lot of people have asked me, well, did you had to be out 1 year, now you can double dip and all that kind of stuff. I said that wasn't really the plan. It just happened to be that we knew that ultimately we would be moving up here. Now, I'll tell you something about this Collin County corridor. I mean, this is probably the epicenter in the United States of America on high school football facilities.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. The attention that is put, of course, our great state just is in love with Texas high school football. But if you were going to coach in a place in your last deal, you were maybe going to ultimately retire in a particular place that puts that kind of value into what you did for, by that time it'll be 40 some plus years out doing it. It's not a bad place to be.
No, it's unbelievable. I mean, from all the stadiums, and I saw what Melissa has, and of course we know what Allen has, and what everybody. It's incredible. And I remember when they first had regular turf back in the 70s and 80s at some of the schools. I want to start at Port Arthur Jefferson.
Yep.
I recently have had a chance to visit with Mike Owens. As you know, he had his name put on the field house at Lee, the job he did there. He was on the staff that you guys had and played for a state title. I asked him about you. And he said, by the way, tell Todd I said hello. But I asked him, I said, what made Todd Dodge such a great quarterback? He said he was an unbelievable leader, but he also, he mentioned the skills, but he said, David, you have no idea. He could play through aches and pains and all of that. What made Todd Dodge a great quarterback at Jefferson, in your opinion?
Well, I appreciate Coach Owens saying that, and please tell him hello and congratulations for me when you get a chance. When my mom and dad left to go to Longview when I was 15 years old, and my dad was a Methodist preacher, and back in those days there was no thing called PAPF, previous
right.
athletic participation. If your parents moved, you sat out an entire calendar year of varsity competition in every sport. And I had started as a sophomore, and so mom and dad left me in Port Arthur, and I moved in with a family of one of my offensive linemen. They took out legal guardianship on me for the next 2 years of my life. Ronnie Thompson was like my father, and those teammates were like my brothers. And when the old cliche in football, we say we're a family. Well, I really was for me, and so. From the standpoint of a leadership and the standpoint of, I was always, Ronnie was one of those guys when you coach for him. I mean, when you played for him, I knew he loved me, but gosh, was he hard nosed. He was old school. I mean, he literally told me, he goes, if you ever get hurt, I'm not coming out to get you. I'm not sending anybody out to get you. You better get your tail up off the ground. And that's just the way we were. That's the way we were raised in football, and so that probably had a little bit to do with it. Is you got your tail up off the ground. It was a tough, hard nosed program that I played in. We had as tough of off season as I've ever been associated with as a coach or a player. So those are the things that did that. I was blessed, to be able to throw a football, and Ronnie Thompson saw that in me, and he kind of manicured that into what he wanted to do. I used to ask Ronnie. I said, "I'm just curious, Coach. I know you played for Buckshot Underwood in the early '60s at Port Arthur." I said, "What motivated you to ultimately be such a pioneer in the passing game?" He said, well, Todd, I'll tell you what, I was the leading receiver on the 1961, I think that was right, Port Arthur Yellow Jackets, and I caught 10 balls. He goes, so as my young career started, I started getting myself around other like-minded passing game pioneers. And, I mean, we were doing things at Port Arthur that no one did in those days.
Yep. And had the great run. Did getting to a state championship but not winning it, did that stick with you and fuel you as a football coach?
No doubt. We're so stupid as coaches and athletes and competitors, as we usually we think a lot more about the losses than we do the wins. We fret the losses a lot more than we celebrate the wins, which is kind of backwards, I guess. But yeah, that it definitely did. That was something that as you go through your life, and we had a team in 1980, and one of the things I want to say about Mike Owens before I go any further, a lot of times people reflect back on that 1980 TJ team that we got, beat by Permian State Championship is, it was Dodge and Duhan, and it was high flying offense and all that. We played great defense. I mean, gosh almighty. It was the difference between, Ronnie got there in 1978. We went 1-9. Okay. And he basically threw a bunch of pups to the wolves about mid-year. And so by the time we got to 1980, our senior year, there was a whole bunch of 3-year starters. But 1978, 1979, we got better. But 1980, we were really good on defense. But, as we went through, we were very talented. And I learned a lot from Ronnie Thompson. I learned a lot from Mike Owens, is don't waste a really talented team. When you have a team that is very talented, milk everything you can out of them. And I really admire, as I've gone through my and I didn't realize it at the time, but I admire my coaches for how they got us to where we were. And ultimately, a bad half of football. We may still, Dangerfield 1983-ish.
Absolutely. Yep.
And they deserve absolutely to be remembered as one of the greatest. And they are. It's always mentioned. If we had won that game against Permian in 1980, I think some people would still mention us as one of maybe the top 10 all-time teams because of the way that we did it. It was very innovative on my coach's part. We were talented. Brent Duhan, who just went into the Texas High School Football Hall of Fame, and I'm so proud for Brent. He caught 92 balls for 1,300 yards and 19 touchdowns in 1980. I mean, that is huge today. Robert Smothers caught 57 balls for almost 1,000 yards in that same year. We had 2,000-yard running backs, in that year. So, so I say all that to answer your question. Yeah, it grinded on me. It really did.
Is winning a state championship contagious? Is it something you cherish, or does it actually bring even more burden on you because you now have tasted that? And you've tasted it a lot.
Yeah. Absolutely cherish them. And every single one of them is their own. I have my own, I've been asked, like, what is your most memorable or your favorite or whatever? They're all equally important and special. But I will say this, in two places, at South Lake and at West Lake, it is very, very hard to stay on top when you're constantly the hunted. Mm-hmm. So I don't really feel a burden to feel like I'm fiending to go win another one or anything like that. But I do, tell our players that there is a blueprint in place. There are some players on our team that already kind of remind me a little bit of people that I've coached. There's some units on our team that remind me. But it's funny, David. We do end of spring ball, we do exit interviews with our players, and we ask them, what are your goals for this team? What are your 3 goals? And it's always interesting. State championship. Well, I think that's awesome. Okay. And I don't want to throw a wet blanket on their excitement, but I tell them, guys, y'all got to understand those things are really, really hard to come by. I said, so what we want to make sure that we do, and what we always did at the places we were, is you don't deserve to talk about a state championship until after Thanksgiving. And that's basically what we told our team. We want to win a district championship. We want to be practicing on Thanksgiving. I kind of look in the eyes of some of these players here, because they've done that. They've gotten to Thanksgiving, okay, here at Lovejoy. I said, but if you consistently make it to Thanksgiving morning, you're practicing, you're in the top 16 in the state in your division. That's something to be proud of. From that point on, there's nothing else left except to talk about going to win one. Now, the league that we play in, the non-district schedule that we have, and the league that we play in, wow. It is. I'll just say this: if we win our district, we may have a team that could make a run to it. Whoever wins this district that we're going to be in.
And you have Cooper on Friday night television and everything, right?
Yeah, got it. Lubbock Cooper. Very similar programs. I've done as much research as I can about them. They're an older program than us, but kind of Lubbock Cooper outside of Lubbock, west of Lubbock, and Lovejoy, northeast of the Metroplex, kind of have all been, for the last 18 years, have kind of been, going through the 2A, 3A, 4A, 5A. I told them, I said, guys, no disrespect to Lubbock Cooper. I said, I bet y'all really have never heard of Lubbock Cooper. And they've kind of, yeah. I said, well, guess what? They've never heard of Lovejoy either.
Right.
So it's not like it's any shade that anybody's throwing each other, but they're in their world in West Texas. We're in our world of Metroplex, and we've never come across each other. But these two teams, we're both very, very fortunate. Chip and I, got asked, this summer if we would like for our game to be played on Bally's, and we're excited to do that.
Well, one of the things you mentioned, Coop, the Lovejoy, how you've gone through, or the school has gone through that ladder. South Lake Carroll did that.
Yeah.
Back when you started to hear about them. And next thing you know, of course, now with what they are with Riley as the head coach. Speaking of that, so you go to Lovejoy, you have to put together a non-district schedule. You have Cooper. Why did you not return Riley's text or call about playing you in non-district this year?
Well, one of the things is he's got almost 3,000 students, and I got about 1,500. So that would. And the other thing, David, is really, and I think you and I talked about this.
Absolutely.
Off the air. But, if I got back into coaching, I did not want to be in a situation where I would be possibly competing against my son again. We did it one time. It was really a special deal for our family. It's the first time it's ever been done. Father and son playing state championship. I hope someone else gets to do it again someday. It's pretty neat, but I don't really enjoy competing against my own family.
No, I get it. I can't even imagine that. He did tell me, I said, is there a story that you remember that kind of, I don't know if that's funny or whatever. So your 05 team at South Lake Carroll that was so dominant and ranked number one all year long in these various polls, the national polls. And the word started to, people started talking about winning a national championship. Mm-hmm. And one of the things he told me, and a lot of coaches, keep the main thing. And you kept kind of downplaying the national championship. Let's win the Texas state championship. So you played Katy, and he told me that all throughout the year, all keeping that over here. Stop worrying about that. Let's win. And then you got in the locker room after you won the game, and what did you say? Something about blank boys. We just won the national championship. You remember that?
Yeah, I do. And he reminds me of that quite often. That's one of his. He reminds me of that, and I did. I threw the old wet blanket again. I threw that on that one. That was a team it's kind of one of those deals that you look around. We've had some. You win with really good players. Okay, and it's a coach's job is to make sure you get really good players in position to be as good as they can. There's a lot of teams across the state of Texas who look really pretty getting off the bus through the years, and maybe not reach their potential. We always want to talk with each other as we go through the process. Let's make sure that we knock the top off. That 2005 team ended up having 10 Division I signees off of that team. I told the coaches before the season was over, I told them, I said, guys, I got to be honest with y'all. If we don't win a state championship this year, if we don't, go back to back after the 04, I said, we probably underachieved, So there was a little bit of pressure we put on ourselves. But as far as the national championship stuff, I always told people, I said, if you win a 5A or a 6A state championship in the state of Texas, you've had to play 16 weeks, or any state championship. You've had to go all the way to Christmas. Mm-hmm. Well, other states, sometimes they win national championships, teams from California, or teams from Las Vegas, or teams from Florida, or wherever. Hell, they're through playing like a week after Thanksgiving. They play about 13 games, and then they, to me, the national championship is the state championship in the state of Texas.
I've always wondered how they really could ever try to truly do that. There's games on TV. I watched a couple, like you mentioned, Vegas with Bishop Gorman, and of course St. Aquinas in Florida, among some other schools. That great run by De La Salle in California. But you're right; those teams are all good, and the talent around the country now with what Texas does. The difference, in your opinion, Todd, is that there's talent in Florida and Georgia and elsewhere. No, Pennsylvania, Ohio, California, Louisiana, bang for your buck talent there. Is it the commitment in Texas? Is it the facilities, which you mentioned earlier, the coaching staffs, the commit to? Is that really what separates this state from everybody else?
No doubt. The coaches that are coaching the state of Texas, I would say 85% of anybody's coaching football in the state of Texas knew when they were about 15 years old they wanted to coach. I mean, they went through high school. They probably had a great experience in Texas high school football. They went on to college. Maybe they played, maybe they didn't. But they knew and they prepared to be a football coach. And all coaches that coach in the state of Texas have to be in the building. They have to be teachers. You go elsewhere and you may have the head coach might be in the building and there's 10 assistant coaches. It's kind of like their afternoon job. So yes, that's one thing that's really, really different. The attention to the facilities, the attention to the athletic periods, the football athletic periods that you have not only during the season but during the off season. So yeah, I've had the chance to go across the country in my couple of stints into college in recruiting, and it's not even close. I mean, the other states that are close to Texas are Georgia and Alabama. Florida and California, two of the most talent-rich places, very talented players. Most of the ones that are winning national championships in the state of California are private schools, mm-hmm. where you've got I was talking with through the Nike program. I've gotten a chance to know some coaches out in California, and talking to the guy from not Bishop Gorman, but Mater Dei several years ago. And I just asked, I said, what's your recruiting model? He goes, Coach, he said, we're a school right here in Orange County. He said, but we get players from all the way from San Diego County all the way to North LA County and anywhere in between, and they all come in. So I mean, they literally are. It would be like taking an all-star team of. I mean, you take Houston. I mean, it'd be like, okay, let's put North Shore, all the best players, North Shore, Tascasita, and Katy. Okay, let's take all those players and let's put them all on one team. Okay, pretty good football.
It'd be a pretty good football team. Do you have a bad day?
I absolutely try like heck never to, because I learned a long time. This is again probably from my own coaches. Is there's a little old saying called "fake it till you make it." We get up. A lot of people are now. We started 10 years ago at Westlake, starting practice at 5:30 in the morning. So my alarm went off at 4:30 this morning, and we were on the practice field. Period one started at 5:30 this morning, and that's just the life we live. And so you better. You don't always feel your best, okay? But you act your best.
Yeah, and the kids are watching. The young men, they're watching. Well, I want to go back to one thing, and you've given me more time than I asked for, and I appreciate it. There's no way I was going to have anybody else today on the first week. You mentioned about what Ronnie Thompson's said to you about, I'm not coming to get you on the field if you get hurt.
Yeah.
And again, things have changed. Lots of different rules and how long you can practice and all that. And I get it. But have we gotten to the point where we've gotten too far away from that compared to where we are today? Or is that really just part of the country changing the way it does?
Well, I think football coaches within the confines, when they have their players, when that season starts, when that offseason starts and you're building your family, I think you can build toughness within your team through off season, through spring football practice, through being smart in your physicalness during the season. But gosh almighty, David, there's so much attention to what really is not real football in the off season, and it's the 7-on-7 game, which I'm absolutely a huge fan of. The combines, the camps, the everything. You just see, you got kids nowadays that are getting recruited off of their performance at a camp rather than off their video.
Yep.
That's kind of crazy to me.
Hey, you're as good as there's ever been at what you do. And I tell you, we've talked before back when you were looking around after college, and then what you did during this off season. And I got to tell you, it was an honor. You contacted me to kind of pick my brain, and you've done that before.
Yep.
And I don't know. I mean, I'm just a guy that talks about the game. I don't know anything about coaching it, but you're as good as it's ever been, man. And I appreciate you being a part of this first show, and I wish you the best of luck. I'll look for that game. I'll have a game myself, but I'll be watching for that score to come down on your opening weekend. I appreciate you a bunch.
Well, I want you to know I always appreciate our friendship, and I want you to know that Butch LaQuire, our good friend from Tyler, Texas, is going to be on the sideline with me.
Is he really?
Butch and I have been great friends for forever. We coached together at North Texas in '92, '93, and from then on, he's Riley's godfather. I don't know if
I did not know that. No.
Yeah, and so Butch and I'll be together this Friday night. So I'll tell him you said hello.
Tell him I said hi. He's a legend in that Tyler area back in the days, even going back to Earl Campbell and people like that. No question.
That's right.
Thank you, Todd. Appreciate it. Todd Dodge, head football coach at Lovejoy. Back in a moment with Mike Owens, the former coach at Lee and Jefferson, and 1 year at Frankston on 365 Sports and the Texas Statewide High School Football Podcast.
Make this the summer of Ram at Peters Ram in Longview. Introducing the all-new 2025 Ram 1500 with available 420 horsepower and 540 foot-pounds of torque, starting at an affordable $47,995. Or get $4,000 off the all-new 2025 1500 Limited with available 540 horsepower and 521 foot-pounds of torque. Need something for work? The Ram 1500 Classic, starting at $36,999. Peters Ram in Longview has the largest selection of the hardest-working new trucks in the industry. Online at peterscars.com.
At Genco, our goal is to build long-lasting relationships while providing complete financial solutions for each step of life's journey. Our members enjoy fewer fees, lower rates on loans of all types, and higher yields on a wide variety of savings options. That's just a small part of the credit union difference. Visit Genco online, on Facebook, or come by one of our 5 locations today. Apply online for membership. Genco FCU, NCUA Equal Housing Lender.
My money, my future, my credit union. Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears!
Ghost Hydration is a fully transparent, fully loaded, full-flavored hydration drink that we've all been waiting for. Ghost is caffeine-free with electrolytes, zero sugar, and low sodium that'll hydrate your body before, during, and after your workout. Consumer loved with authentic flavors, so grab and enjoy a Sour Patch Kids Blue Raspberry and Red Berry, along with the Kiwi Strawberry, Orange Squeeze, or Lemon Lime. Ghost Hydration can truly be used anytime. Remember, it's formulated for sports, but made for life.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
I did Robert E. Lee High School out of Tyler from 1991 up until and through the 2009 season. The first year I did Lee football in 91, they lost to Killeen in the quarterfinal round at Kyle Field. It was the deepest run that Lee High School, now Tyler Legacy, had ever made. It had guys like Fred Coleman, wide receiver who played at University of Washington, played for a while, was on New England's first ever Tom Brady Super Bowl team. I then saw them, they struggled. Biff Peterson was the head coach, and they had some Lee could fight, you know, but they were surrounded by so many other programs in that area that were better. John Tyler, all of the time, almost all of the time. There was Marshall in the Dennis Parker run that they won the state title in 1989. They also had that famous game against Carter, the Carter team that was a part of Friday Night Lights in 1988. On a last-second dump pass from the 1-yard line to Jesse Armstead. Of course, everyone knows, played at Miami and with the Giants. You had Lufkin, John Outlaw, and they had the 2001 team, Reggie McNeil, that won a state title. You had Longview was always good. They went forever. 1937 is something they hate to talk about. Then finally, John King with his son, Haynes, the quarterback, they won a state championship in Haynes' junior year and broke the drought. Texas High with Barry Norton won a state title, a big school that was once the highest class and then dropped down to what was then 5A. And then, of course, you know about the East Texas dominance with teams like Dangerfield, the teams back in the 80s like Groveton. Obviously, I mentioned Scott Surratt and Carthage and what they've done, what he's done. And then Pittsburgh in 1980, one of the best teams of all time. So many teams in that area, and Gilmer. And many others that I haven't mentioned. Tatum won state titles, but in the bigger schools, Lee was always the one. That's not going to happen. Mike Owens took over the program in 1996, arrived from Port Arthur Jefferson. First year, they got slaughtered. Second year, they made the playoffs and actually beat Carter in a playoff game. And then you could see them turn the corner. But they went and started in 98, lost in double overtime to John Tyler and lost the district title, but you could see they're getting better. And then all of a sudden in 99, they beat John Tyler and ended up winning a bunch of those games against Allen Wilson and then a couple of the Thomas Brooks that came along after that, although Thomas got him the first year he arrived at JT. But Mike Owens and his staff started to win, and they started to win at a heck of a level. They had a stretch where they lost in the second round 3, 4, 5 so years in a row. And some of those teams went on to win a state championship that they lost to, like, for example, Mesquite, when they had Marco Martin as the big fullback and defensive lineman. And then all of a sudden, in 2002, they went to the semifinals, lost to Midland. 2003, lost in 4 overtimes to the Woodlands at Texas Stadium. And then in 2004, they won it all. Mike Owens took a program that always hoped they could win. They had some teams that were pretty good, but they never were going to be, you would think, at the level of John Tyler, Lufkin, Longview, and others. And then all of a sudden, they sure were. They kept chopping wood, as coaches say. They kept on getting better. They had an incredible offensive system. They became really good. Mike Owens is retired now. He's also battling something that we'll talk about with him. I love the man. I absolutely get goosebumps thinking about him. Mike Owens, former Port Arthur Jefferson, former Lee football coach, and he spent one fall coaching Frankston to do a friend a favor to help the Indians. He's a great story. He sounds like he's as gruff, ornery, and also in love with football as ever before. And I'm proud to call Mike Owens a great friend, and here's our conversation. Former Robert E. Lee, Port Arthur Jefferson, and Frankston high school football coach, and someone during my career of 44 years now, high school football, that I love this man. Mike Owens joins us on 365 Sports and the High School Podcast. Todd Dodge is a guest today. And, of course, he's back in coaching. He's won more state championships that I think even he can count. What do you remember him, Mike, as a player, obviously as a phenomenal player at Jefferson and Port Arthur?
Oh, he was a great kid, tremendous leader. I mean, the guy played through injuries and all kinds of things, especially his senior year when we played 15 games. And he was just a great player. And, I mean, good motivator. The kids all looked up to him. He was just a good guy, period.
You won the state championship in 2004, and it's not that it wasn't expected, but it was the years before that when you had the Derek Farmers and eventually when you had the Matt Flynn's, and you lost in that semifinals and then that multi-overtime dramatic game with the Woodlands at Texas Stadium. Yep. What was it about 2004 that everything clicked?
I remember after the semifinals game in, I think, 2002, where Matt was injured, so we had to play him in the shotgun most of the time because he couldn't run back there and hand it off, So I really think had he been healthy, we might have had a chance to win it that year. But then that four overtimes against the Woodlands the next year, I came home, and that was in a quarterfinal game, I think.
Right.
I even told my wife, I said, well, we're going in the wrong direction. The semifinals, and now we're quarterfinals. I don't know. Josh Hill came back, his senior year and played just outstanding. And we had some good players and big guys that could play a little bit. Great defense. They were one of those teams that just gelled, they liked each other. They played to win, and they never even thought about losing. I mean, that was never even a thought, and they would every week play to win. No matter what happened the week before, we got to win this week. So it was, and they loved to practice, which again, that was just amazing to see those kind of things.
Well, you mentioned Josh Hill, who, of course, was phenomenal, just a tremendous high school player. You had Saron Black, who would have been an NFL player if it wouldn't have been for the injuries catching up with him. He, of course, went to LSU like Matt did, and they played together. Tyrone Ross, the unbelievable grinder of a running back. You had White Lightning and Peyton Price and an offensive line with Sam Banks. And I don't want to forget anybody because you don't want to do that, like you said when you had the field house named after you. You don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Stripling with massive plays against Trinity and Westfield. I can remember it like it's yesterday. Can you?
Oh, yeah. Yes. I think about it all the time. I have this big sign that somebody gave me in the garage that's I put up in my garage because it's like 4x4, and it's it has all the stuff on there about winning the state championship and all of that. And every day I see it when I walk out in the garage to get in the car. So I think about it all the time. And those were great kids. They fought through injuries. And Tyrone Ross, was probably the smaller of the running backs we've had. But by God, he was up there in the top two. I can tell you that we've ever had. He was the toughest, hard-nosed grinder, like you said, that I've ever seen, and a great player.
Farmer was the one that was Derek's arrival the kind of that set the tone and brought you the toughness and grit you need to win against the Marshalls, Lufkins, Longviews, and John Tylers?
Yeah, well, I think before him was Joffrey Reynolds.
Absolutely. Sure. Yeah.
And Joffrey was our first really good running back that could just pound it in there. And he spent, 12 years in the Canadian Football League, Hall of Fame, and all that. So and then Derek Farmer, who had to be one of the toughest guys on earth because he hurt his knee, cartilage, and we wouldn't work him out sometimes and then just play him on Friday so he wouldn't get hurt, anymore. So he was a good, tough guy. I'll never forget him playing against that team from Arkansas.
Absolutely.
Where he just veered back because they had this all-state safety they had or something that tried to tackle him, and he put cleat marks from that guy's toes to his headgear, as he's running over him. And, Derek Farmer was a heck of a player, no doubt about it.
You played at Lobo Stadium, Abe Martin Stadium, where you had some incredible wins, and you had some at Longview, and, of course, the Rose Stadium collisions and the rivalry with Alan Wilson, John Tyler, and others. But where was, among the East Texas places, where was the toughest place to play?
Oh, shoot. They were all tough, but I would say Longview probably has to be the one, because their student section was on the home side, and they were right behind our bench, so that was probably the toughest place to play, but see, those 2 years there where there was only, me, Alan Wilson, of course, Pat from Longview, and then Outlaw. We just sit around in the office like there's just four of us. So what are we going to do? So those were the tough 2 years, though. Those years were tough. We played each other twice.
I can't even imagine. People wouldn't even understand that now. That was amazing to me because of the history and tradition. Which of those coaches did you enjoy beating the most?
It would be Outlaw, of course, because he was, Outlaw was always full of it. He was, it was, friendly confrontations. I mean, we weren't ever mad at each other or any of that. We all liked each other. Beating Outlaw, of course, we wanted to beat John Tyler because of the big advantage they have in wins over Lee, or they had then. I don't think they do anymore, but I think we won, I can't even remember, 13 out of 17, or maybe it was 15 out of 17. I don't remember, of the games we played. And so we enjoyed beating John Tyler, but we really liked going to Lufkin and beating, at Lufkin. And then the toughest place to play, though, it has to be Longview, not just because of the team and the students, but the officials all seem to be, Longview graduates or something, when they came out there.
Do you think that win in Lufkin, pouring down rain, Mike Rogers catches a ball in overtime right at the goal line on probably was a wheel route, and from Matt and falls into the end zone? Was that one of your? I know you had a bunch of great wins, but was that one of your favorites that you remember?
Oh, yes, that and the state championship.
Sure.
Because those Lufkin people they support the heck out of Lufkin. I'm gonna tell you that. And so if you're playing at Lufkin, then you're at a pretty good size disadvantage, because they let them buy tickets on the visitor side too. So they were sitting over there, and it was it was just a great atmosphere, though. There's no doubt about it. And the old guy from Waco,
Johnny Tusa.
Every year we'd talk and say, well, I don't think we need to play each other this year. And then we'd end up saying, the heck with it. Let's just go ahead and do it. So he was a great guy too. I really enjoyed Johnny. We did, try to play pretty good teams in the preseason so we'd be ready for district, because I knew there was good teams in the district. We'd sit around, watch film, trying to figure out, how are we going to block that guy?
Derek Johnson. Derek Johnson.
Oh, yes. Oh, best linebacker I've ever in my career we've ever played against. I mean, I've never seen a player like that. Because on film, if you watch him, it looks like nobody's trying to block him. You know, I even asked Fleet. I said, Fleet, looks like nobody's trying to block the guy. He's making every tackle. And Fleet goes, well, we'll block him. Well, we blocked him some, you know, but he was – and that collision him and Derek Farmer had on the edge out there.
Yeah.
Is unbelievable. But, yeah, Johnny Kusa, if you could beat Waco High, you had a pretty good chance.
You mentioned Outlaw, obviously Pat Collins, Alan Wilson, John King, who's his sustainability, what he's done at Longview has just been unbelievable, and great to see his son have a huge win against Florida State and Ireland over the weekend. But those coaches, Cecil Roach, Danny Long, what did those relationships mean to you?
Oh, I tell you, those guys are some of my best friends. I mean, Cecil Roach was as good a guy as there was, you know, just funny and hilarious, say anything, anywhere, it didn't matter. And then Danny Long became one of my best friends and still is to this day. We have coffee every Friday morning. You know, every Friday morning, me, Danny, Dow Wynn, and Jerry Reed, and a few other people, we just meet over at Starbucks and drink coffee every Friday morning, just like we used to do at Roach's. Every Friday during games, we go to Roach's and drink coffee at 7 o'clock in the morning. Then we've kind of continued the tradition on now that we're all retired and old, can't hardly get around. But those relationships mean more to me today than they even meant to me back then. Good guys, all of them.
What did Danny Long becoming AD mean to the school district?
Well, I tell you, Danny was such a great communicator. I mean, you know, I'll always be grateful of, I forgot the AD's name that hired me.
Billy Hall.
Billy Hall, yeah, I'll always be grateful to him because he hired me.
Johanna Denson.
Johanna
Yep.
did a great job. I mean, she was a good AD, and Danny was a great communicator. I mean, he can talk to anybody, you know, and calm situations down. You know, he's a peacemaker, you know, and he was able to control me, you know, and because I'd go a little off every once in a while, and then he would come in and talk to me, but he was more of just a friend sitting in the office talking to you. Because, I mean, he never tried to tell me, no, you need to do this. He never did any of that, you know. But he was just a good guy, and he was a good guy to talk to. And, you know, he was just one of those guys that could get in there and help you solve problems. That's what he did. He was a problem solver, and he would help you get through things or whatever was going on. That's why I think he was such a great athletic director. I mean, of course, Simmons may have been the best superintendent ever that I've ever had. Danny Long is a great man. He's got a good family, and he just loves football like I did. Easy to get along with. Heck, we go to games now. You know, I mean, we're making plans to go to a high school game every Friday for as long as we can.
That's good. What did it mean to you with Dr. Crawford, TISD, honored you at the field house?
Oh, it's the most humbling experience I've had in many, many years. You know, I've been in Hall of Honors at Tulane and the Tyler ISD, the Coaches Association up here, and all of that. But this, by far, you know, I just wish, like I said at the thing, that I would have had the opportunity to work for Dr. Crawford, you know, because he comes from football and, you know, his dad was a pretty good coach, you know. He's such a good guy. And, you know, I believe that he answered the question, I think when they were interviewing for superintendent, and I got this on pretty good authority, the first question they would ask the superintendents, what do you think is more important, academics or athletics? And every one of them would say, well, we got academics, of course, blah, blah. But I think Dr. Crawford's answer was, why do we have to have both, one over the other? So why can't we do well in both of them? You know, and so when he answered that question like that, then that's the same kind of thought that Simmons, same kind of thought that he had. He said, well, why do we have to be good in one thing and not good in everything else? He said he thought everything was important, the band, the drill teams, the athletics, you know, all of it. It was all stuff we had to work to get better at, you know, so we weren't going to take away from one to give to the other. So it was just the same kind of thought process. And those kind of guys are usually pretty dadgum successful. And I told them I think that Dr. Crawford would be a great superintendent to work for. Because, I mean, look at what he's got done, over there. And I think that they've had 5 or 6 coaches since I left, and I think the longest any of them last was I think there was one that was there 3 years. The rest of them, not even 2. So he seems like a guy that's going to allow, and I think Coach Trahan, I think you either call it Trahan or Trahan, depends on which side of the Mississippi River you're on.
Yeah.
But it's, or the Sabine River, excuse me.
Yeah.
I think he's going to do a good job. And he's got great facilities now, and they, and they put a lot of emphasis on athletics like it used to be, and I think that he's going to do a good job. We, East Texas, we felt like that East Texas was a football brand, and that by God we're as good as West Texas guys or anybody else, and they'd already been proving it. Marshall won a state championship, and all of that. So, it was, but when we had that run, like you said, John Tyler was winning every year. Lufkin won a state championship, and we won one, and now Longview's got one. So it's
every big school, JT, Lee,
yep.
And I know they've changed the names. Texas High with Barry Norton, Marshall with Dennis Parker. Danny was on the staff. Lufkin with John Outlaw. And again, you mentioned Carthage or Dangerfield, what Dennis Alexander did. But all the bigger schools in that area want to say can notch a state championship or more in their belt. So tell me the story that you were watching a video, and I don't know if it was a scrimmage or a video or something was going on, and you saw this woman, Kathy.
Oh, my wife.
And her brother was a player on the team or not? Was it?
Yes.
Tell me that story about how you met her, how you saw her, and then realized, man, that might be the one.
Yeah, I was, I think 24, maybe my second year at Thomas Jefferson, and I was assistant coach. I was a linebacker coach back then, and so we scrimmaged. We had a scrimmage, and Ronnie Thompson was the head coach, and Kathy's brother, Kyle McLaughlin, was one of our players. He was a tight end or something. I can't remember what he was, but he had been a player. He wasn't on the team then, but he had been a player. And we were watching the film, and back in them days, there's old 16 millimeter film, so everybody had to watch it. The cameraman focuses in on this blonde getting up out of the stands to see her dad had played there, brother played there, her other brother played there. So she was watching the spring game, and I think she was maybe 20 or something at the time. So he just kept the dadgum camera on her. I kept looking at her and said, "Who is that?" Then the guy named Norman Gaspard, who was the film guy, he said, "Well, that's my wife's her best friend." And I said, "What?" And I said, "Well, I need to get introduced, to her." So we had a Christmas party that same year, as soon as the season ended, we had a Christmas party, and somehow she got invited to come to the Christmas party. And so that's where we met, and
the rest is history.
Since.
Yep.
She has attended just about every football game, that I've ever coached in. I don't care where it is, and that started out when we were young, when I was the defensive coordinator at Port Arthur. She was at every game. They have to take care of the kids. Of course, we didn't have kids then, but then we had 3.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, coaches during the season, she goes, I don't see him from, the end of July till December now because they're in the playoffs all the time. And she'd say that, she has to take care of the kids. You got to take them wherever they got to go. Plus she was working too. And they just sacrifice everything, for it. And people just don't understand how much time they have to spend away from their husband, especially during football season. I try to make it up in the off season, and they just grin and bear it. They don't complain or they just fall in line like they're one of the soldiers too. Coach's wife is the most important thing I'd say to any kind of coach. My wife's been great all these years, and the only time when I took that Frankston job after I'd been retired 5 years, because she just told me, I'm not going to any games. I'm just not doing it. And I said, well, I understand that. I said, you've gone to 45 years worth of games or whatever it is, so you just relax. You don't even have to worry about it. And she didn't. But the thing is, every one of my kids, which I was amazed, showed up for at least one of the games. And they don't. My only son that lives here is Jordan. And he went to a couple of home games. But my daughter showed up at a home game and an out-of-town game, and my other son. They all went to at least one, up there in Ohio.
All your life as a coach, and then as you were playing, of course, a hell of a football player, and then your career at Tulane. But all your life, you asked your kids to be tough, your players to be resilient, to be focused, to be passionate. I know things right now are difficult. Have you used what you used to tell your kids and your players to how you are fighting right now yourself?
Yes. I'm determined this thing's not going to beat me, but you never know. But you just got to keep going until it's over. So, but that's what I'm doing. I'm doing everything I can possibly do, and my doctor's all in it, and she's, pretty dadgum good doctor. I'll tell you that, because she listens to me every time I go in, and she got to listen to my BS, and I talk to her. What's funny is that my doctor, Dr. Sasha Davis, went to Lee High School, and she graduated with my son, my oldest son, so there's a connection there. And I go in and I try to tell her, how she's going to do her job. And, of course, she'll laugh sometimes, and then she'll say, well, no, we can't do that, or whatever. But she'll sit there and listen to me anyhow. But, no, I'm doing now exactly what I would ask my players to do, and that's exactly what I'm doing. And I'm trying to stay positive and upbeat and try to whip this thing if we can.
I know it's private, but there are so many people that probably have not been able to stay in touch with you. And if you don't mind, obviously you're battling cancer,
yes.
And you've kept it private. But I want people who may not know much about it to be, that an extra prayer or 10,000 of them. You've kind of kept this thing to yourself, the family, and just the closest friends. Is that hard to do?
Well, yeah, because, even the closest friends, they may tell somebody, or they may, but I've got a lot of support, a lot of people praying, and my wife's been great. My kids have been great. Everything's, right now, I'm doing pretty good, and of course I know they could turn on a dime,
sure.
But but right now everything's going, seems like, in the right direction. So I'm trying to stay upbeat. Of course, I'm not. Of course, I'm almost. I'll be 73 in September, so it's not like I'm a young guy anymore. So it's just, I don't know what's getting me weaker. Whether, and I have this special diet and all this kind of stuff. So. And it's mostly food I don't like, but but you just got to do what you got to do till you can't, and that's kind of the way I'm looking at it.
Well, I'll tell you right now, listening to your speech when you had the name put on the field house in just the 30 minutes, I know I've taken way too much of your time talking to you. You sound as fiery and competitive and in some ways ornery as ever.
Yes. I think I am. My wife could verify that. There's no doubt about it. But and so could my doctors. There. But anyway, I'm just going to be the way I am until I'm no longer around to be that way. So anyhow, I've had a good life. I've had 3 good kids. They all are successful. My wife's been wonderful. so, and everybody I've been associated with has been pretty good, so I'm pretty pleased but, I know you can't live forever, but dadgum, I'd like to live a few more years.
Yep.
So that's what I'm trying to do, hoping that every day we wake up that, by God, there's some discovery somewhere.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Can do this. And, of course, I think prayers help a lot, too. I've had a lot of people doing some things and praying and that kind of stuff. And right now I'm feeling pretty good. Of course, I hurt my back, but it didn't have anything to do with cancer, so I'm kind of fighting that right now. But but I think it's, it's good to get out and keep trying to do what you've been doing, and just treat every day like it's a new day. That's what I'm thankful for. Every time I wake up, I go, well, I'm still here, So,
Yep.
And that's what I'm trying to do. Stay here as long as I can.
So you won the state title. I want to close it with this. You won it in 2004. You beat a great, talented Spring Westfield, and you had played so many unbelievable teams just in your backyard, winning some, losing some. Had you not won the state championship, which was kind of not a surprise, but that was not the year everyone thought that you were going to go deep like you had the 2 prior years, would your coaching career have been fulfilled?
Well, I don't know. You don't know because you did win it, but I know that I'm close with a lot of coaches that had the opportunity, to win it, and they always, talk about how just, we could have done it that year, and and so I'm thinking that if you win one, because it's hard to do, like you said, Dodge, that son of a gun's won 6 or maybe 7, I don't even know, but he's he's just a great coach and great guy, always has been, so I can't really say if it had been fulfilled, but I think if you coach that many years, that you got to put it to bed. Once you retire, you got to put it to rest. You can't sit around and say, shoulda, woulda, coulda, because you just can't do that. You can't look back and just lament about bad things that happened to you, so I try not to do that. But since I won one, then yes, I can say it's been fulfilled, because like I said, there ain't that many, that you can win. It's just you get a chance every year, but things have got to go right.
Well,
injuries got to be low. You got to have talent. You got to have good coaches. Everything.
I was thrilled when I heard about the news about the field house, and glad that Dr. Crawford told me about it. And the least I could do was send you that video. Craig, who's working with me. We worked together on a show together. 2 things I wanted to bring up about him, because you brought up Jordan and your other son and your daughter, Ashlyn, as well. But his first ever game that he started doing the sidelines for elite football, like just out of high school, you guys had been pretty good. Not to the point where you were in 02, 3, and 4, but you were pretty good. And I'll never forget, you may not remember this, the first game was against Temple on the road, and they had a freaking great team, and you had turned the ball over like 2 or 3 times in the first half, and that was the first time he ever did a halftime live interview with you, and you're walking to the field house, and I mean, you're just as mad as you could be. I forgot who it was. Somebody fumbled like 3 times in the first half.
Oh, we fumbled on the one,
yes.
Right before half.
Yep.
Awful.
Yep. And then he, of course, was there, and I brought that up in the video, that when you won the state championship and he got you, you're supposed to have done Fox Sports Southwest first or whatever they were called. He grabbed you, which kind of earned that after being all the years we covered you. And when you said, if my players are happy, then I'm happy. And just that moment, do you realize what you meant to that community and what that was like, that journey that capped off with that?
I didn't realize that, but I was just happy as I could be, because Westfield may have been the most talented football team I'd ever seen, with the speed and all of that. And they've been killing people in the playoffs. I mean, beating them 50 to whatever, and it was just a tough group of guys. So when my players just exploded there when we intercepted that pass.
DeHaven. Warren DeHaven.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. And that ended the game, you know, and they were so excited and going crazy on the sidelines that's the only thing I thought about it was they're happy, I'm happy, because, you know, I guarantee you they're happy. There's no doubt about it, you know, but yeah, I don't remember it, what I'm, you know, any kind of meant to the community or any of that kind of stuff. I just know we had quite a few people there that day. And, but, you know, as far as thinking, you know, boy, look what I've done. You know,
no, that's not you. But
thoughts like that.
But it was always the school. Lee was always the school. Everybody else was winning, and then you turned it around. Not that they didn't have they had a 91 team with Fred Coleman and Andy Newberry that went to the quarterfinals, but everyone else, it was always that Lee's not going to be able to do that. And then you mentioned Westfield. Thank God you said that, because not only, you're right, they were amazingly talented, but you were up 28-7. Stripling had another interception for a touchdown. You guys were running that trap or, you know, pounding off of Saron Black on the left side with T.Y., and Josh was just threading the needle. The defense was playing out of their minds. Who was the safety that ended up going that was so good, the safety that went to Oklahoma State? Van Zandt.
Martell.
Yeah, and he forced a fumble or recovered a fumble. You guys were playing. You were beating that team that was so loaded, and not only that, you were winning at 1 point, 28-7, then held on with the pick by DeHaven. And just what I know, I keep saying I want to close it out with this, but I can't. I keep thinking about something else that's just a great memory.
Yeah, we were playing well. We really were, and. I'll never forget, when I walked in, of course, you have to stay on the field forever. Interviews. And then I finally got in the locker room, and all the players were gone. They'd already got dressed and, you know, got on the buses and everything. But Matt Flynn was in there.
Wow.
You know, and he was sitting on the bench, and I walked over and sat down by him, and I said, "How you doing?" He goes, "I'm doing pretty good, Coach," you know, and all that kind of stuff. And we had a little conversation right there, and then we both got up and left the locker room, you know, and then I'll always remember that, because it was almost like he stayed so he could congratulate me, you know, and I just thought that was a really good deal for him, because he was big time, you know, he playing the LSU and all that, you know, so but that was a special moment, I thought, you know.
You know what's interesting is that when he won the national title, after Jamarcus Russell was there, the blue chip 5-star, and the next year they win the national title, beat Ohio State down in the Superdome, and I was at that game covering it. After all the celebration, everything you just mentioned, but it was with you at the state championship. After all the celebration, the locker room finally kind of emptied out, the LSU locker room, and he had told me to hold on. I sat down next to him and we did an interview, but the best part about it was just us talking to each other, like almost in a surreal moment, like you just mentioned. The people that helped build the program that also could enjoy that too, and the fact that he wanted to wait around for you, that's so cool, because so many players, they love you to death, man.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Mike, thank you very much. Appreciate your time, and enjoy those games with Danny. I asked you for a few minutes, and as always, I can't stop talking, but I'm glad I had the chance to visit with you.
That's because you were always a great sports guy, so those guys got to keep talking.
Yeah.
You know, that's the way they are. And just, hey, tell Dodge I said hello.
I will. I will. I absolutely will. Mike Owens from so many schools, but Port Arthur, Jefferson, Robert E. Lee, Frankston, that 1 6-month stretch. This is 365 Sports.
When you need power, performance, and head-turning style, you need Peters Chevrolet. Check out the 2024 Chevrolet Silverado. 1.9% for 36 months with discounts up to $10,000 off on custom crew cabs. 2024 Silverado prices starting at $36,995. Whether you work hard or play hard, take your pick out of the largest selection of new Chevrolets at Peters Chevrolet. Online at peterscars.net. Peters Chevrolet. Together, let's drive.
El Conquistador Restaurants are a very proud sponsor of the Midway Panthers, have been owned and operated by the Gonzalez family since 1969. El Conquistador is recognized annually as a local favorite with their fast and friendly service. Dine in or order takeout and enjoy your favorite Tex-Mex items as well as several traditional menu items. Catering is also available with 3 locations to serve you: Waco, Belmead, and Hillsboro. The Gonzalez family thanks you in Waco and the surrounding area for your continued support of 55 years in business. Go Panthers!
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgan Ford. It's that time of year, it's football season. Bird Colgan Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 selling truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, 47 years in a row. Come see the largest showroom in Texas and experience better at Bird Colgan Ford.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Every single week, thanks to my great friend Jerry Forrest, he's run a website, pigskinprep.com, for years. His data, the analytics, the history of schools, the series of, like if I asked him just off, hey, can you tell me what is the record between Milford and May? He could spit that out to me immediately, whether it's they've played 3 times or 50 times, or South Lake Carroll and Trinity, or Plano against whoever, Midland, Lee, or Odessa Permian. He has all of that. It's unbelievable the amount of information. It's a great website. You should look for it, pigskinprep.com. Every week he's going to give us this list. Here's what you see. On the left-hand side, if you see where it says pick, on the left-hand side, the black numbers, that's who's favored. For example, the second game down, North Shore favored by nearly 20 against a heck of a team at South Oak Cliff. If you see that Jerry's picks on the right side, that team is favored. For example, Oglesby in the first game is a 17-point pick. But the part that matters when we do this every week, look at the ranking totals. That means that Abbott, number 2 in the state, and number 1 in his poll is Oglesby. The total is 3. The lower that number, the better the game is ranked on where they are and the expectations. So you see the games. There's a 6-man game off the top. Then North Shore and South Oak Cliff. Gunner, what a program they've become in a private school against Kincaid. And then Carthage and Kilgore. Last year, Kilgore had Carthage in trouble. Carthage won the game. Kilgore's really good with what Coach Wood does, or Coach Fuller, Clint Fuller does there. Then you have the other ones. There's Belleville and Salina. Grady Rowe does a great job at Belleville, and Salina, of course, is Salina. Then you see down to Argyle and Lone Star, Stanford, Albany. I'm not going to be able to give every game, but you see the best games based on where teams are in Jerry's overall index. There's Glen Rose, what Cliff Watkins has done. Grandview with Ryan Ebner. That's a great kind of a Central Texas shade to the left of I-35 game. And then, of course, China Spring and Franklin. China Spring and Franklin. Mark Fannin at Franklin. China Spring, of course, Coach Beatty. Heck of a game there. And there's Brock in Decatur. Cibolo, Steele, Liberty Hill. All the way down, Lexington, Marlin. I don't want to give every game, but it's hard for me not to. There's that Westlake and Prosper game. Chapel Hill and Jasper, what Jeff Reardon has done, and Coach Crumity at Jasper. Red Oak, Taz Williams, the wide receiver who committed to Baylor, that was a big deal. Collins and College Station, Whitney and Mart, and then Hawley and Roscoe. Those are the best games based on the number to the right, the blue number, based on how teams are ranked in Jerry's index. We will do that every week with the elite games of Texas high school football. I want to thank Garrett Ross. Thanks again to Jack McKenzie, all of our amazing sponsors. Our guests today, including Lovejoy coach Todd Dodge, and former Robert E. Lee and Jefferson, Port Arthur Jefferson head coach Mike Owens. For our sponsors, for you, the audience, please click the like and subscribe button. Pass the word along. I'm David Smoke. Week number 1 is here, and we'll be back for week number 2 next week, right here on the Texas High School Football Statewide Podcast and 365 Sports. 3rd and 2. They stack the line of scrimmage. There's Dom Hill. There he goes. Dom Hill 40. Dom Hill 30. Downhill, Dom Hill. Touchdown. 61 yards.
Smoaky.com presents the Texas High School Football Show on 365 Sports. Brought to you by Peter Chevrolet.
Medlock, they fake it to him. James Keeper off the left side, breaks the tackle, into the secondary, skips away, and he will score. Touchdown, Duncanville.
Here's David Smoke.